Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming to the 14th Moran Address. The Moran Address is a series of presentations to honour Dr. William C. Moran, former Dean of Francis Marion College, who had an extraordinary career in higher education. I won't go through it all. It is on the program here that you can look at, but he was known and admired at Francis Marion College as Dean Moran, and we're very pleased to have his son Tom here with us today, and yes, just appreciate what he did for us at Francis Marion and for the higher education community. Today's address is given by Dr. Ron Murphy. Ron received his Bachelor of Science from Tufts University in 1980 and his Ph.D. in clinical psychology at the State University of New York at Binghamton in 1989. He made it to Francis Marion University in 2006 and after 16 years retired recently in 2022. He is still very active in the community, co-chair of the Mayor's Youth Initiative, director of the Florence Family Support Centre, and a board member of the Veterans Resource Centre. But then again, I should not say too much because I think Ron's going to tell us a lot about what he's doing, and looking forward to that. Ron Murphy.
Thank you, Peter. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, well, thank you. Thanks for coming. I think, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit, different points of the stuff that's not on the slide. So hopefully my slide manager is going to, all right, I'll cue you. Most of you don't know me that well, I think, or some of you do. Half of you looks like you know me pretty well. You're probably surprised as I do that I was asked to do this. But I consider it an honor and a privilege, and I'm grateful to the Faculty Life Committee, the administration, and the Moran family, of course. So I've chosen not to do what appeared to me to be the previous types of Moran talks, which is a little bit more about like my journey and what I've learned, or some life lessons type thing, because they're retiring and whatever, leaving, basically. So I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about something that is very close to my heart, and that is, as the title is, kind of harnessing FMU's resources for direct services in the community for homeless and indigent, low-income, poverty types of populations and situations. So that's what I've been spending the last 10, 15 years of my life doing. And I just want an opportunity to talk about what FMU has done. And then just a couple of suggestions at the end. I had a long list of suggestions that I thought maybe I'd better not do that here for that. So anyway, so I'm going to talk about what we've done in the community along these lines. And at the end, I'll talk a little bit about just a couple of suggestions. So I just want to make 3 general points. I think there's a slide, my friend, for that. So let's see what else I'm missing. So it's my gratitude to everyone. All right, so number 1, my secret weapon that I bring to Florence, and people like me bring to Florence, is really using psychology to understand the causes of and to inform interventions related to poverty and homelessness. So this relates to what I started doing with veterans in the 90s. So what I bring is a psychological understanding of barriers to exiting poverty and homelessness. It's important because it's really, I guess I was being nice here, it's really not well integrated, to use a nice phrase, into social services, human services, however you want to call it. I mean, medicine for sure, but I won't go into that. because there is state-of-the-art stuff about how to help people who are having difficulty accepting help, right? There's whole sciences of it. But psychology here in Florence is not really respected, I guess, is part of it, is really part of it. And so there's some specific things I'll touch on. I'm not going to try to workshop you into learning these techniques, but I want you to see a little bit about, how powerful this little secret weapon can be, okay? And that's what we use in the Florence Family Support Center I'm going to talk about. So let me find my glasses. Oh, there's somewhere. Oh. Anyway. All right, number 2, please, slide. All right, so I just want to make sure everyone knows how grateful I am to the administration, the psychology department. Have always supported my efforts in lots of ways, including financial. I mean, I've gotten real grants for some things. But Dr. Carter and Dr. King I've spoken to many times. They've been very supportive. The psych department chairs, Crystal, Will, and John, and anything I've done could not have been done without their encouragement and guidance. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that. All right, number 3, next slide, please. All right, so what are our enemies? If you come with me and work where I work and where Cecilia works and the people she deals with, what are our enemies? Now, this is what I think the enemies are. I'm not sure the order. I think I've got 3 enemies up here. The order could be up for debate, but really, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the causes of homelessness and why can't people exit homelessness on their own, and what do they need, and what's lacking here, and what psychology can contribute. Does that make sense? So, really, a huge enemy that I think nobody wants to accept, and you're not going to hear a lot of agencies want to admit this, but what I run into all the time is bureaucracy. I mean, just red tape, strict criteria, no flexibility. I mean, just things like wait times. I could put 100 lines further to that first one, okay? And I mean, this isn't the place in a lot of ways, but it's unbelievable how hard it is to exit homelessness or poverty. You don't have to be homeless. We work with a lot of different kinds of people because of what it takes, bureaucratic-wise. Does that make sense? So, I mean, communication with my staff and clients, it varies. It varies. Generally horrible. And I'm talking about social service agencies, medical type, agencies that are tending to the low-income population, the shelters, organizations that have funding to house people, rapid rehousing. Now, their definition of rapid is not my definition of rapid. Cecilia, tell me I'm wrong. No, I know. So I won't give you a hard time. And then, there's a whole thing about coordination. I mean, there's a small group that coordinates, but there's other agencies, too, that siloed. You know what the term silo is? An organization, they don't really talk to a lot of people. They got a fair amount of money. They got regular business. I mean, if you deal with mental health and addiction in Florence, your business is full. Every private practitioner's practice is full in Florence. So next slide, please. So that's the kind of thing that, to me, are the main enemies. Now, these are also critical, really. So I got bureaucracy, and then these two. Really, bottom line stuff is the lack of affordable housing in Florence. So we get a lot I'm going way out of order of this, but we get a lot of clients who are on disability, right? So they make, what's their disability? What do you think a disability check is? Like, you've been determined 100% disabled. Something, brain thing, your arm is... What do you think the monthly payment is? How much you get a month? You said you're not going to work anymore, and the government says, all right, we'll help you. How much? Oh, if it was $1,000, I wouldn't be standing up here. It's about $800. Not veterans. Now, veterans are different. It's about $800. So if you're homeless and you're trying to get out of homelessness, trying to find an apartment where you can also afford the lights, water bill, things like food, anything like that, there are no $500 apartments in Florence. I mean, there are some. I mean, there's probably some in Patriot Place. No, there aren't any, I found out. They're like $1,100 or something. Somebody know? Somebody? Yes, they are, aren't they? So a lot of my time and my staff's time is trying to find apartments for $500 a month. So guess what happens? Now that's just for a single person. Guess what a lot of my clientele is? Not single people, moms with kids, single moms with kids, sometimes couples with kids, and one of them's on disability. So, long story. So, but that is the bottom line in Florence. The other bottom line is the lack of affordable child care and free child care. We could probably solve 50 to 75% of all the poverty-related problems in Florence if we fix those first two things. I mean, you can get free child care, right? There's state programs for that. There's criteria for that, though. You have to be working. So if you can't work because you don't have child care, you can't get the child care money. Bureaucracy. And if your kid is disabled, you can't get help after age 15. So falls through the cracks, one of these cracks, I end up with a family who's got a kid who's 16, right? Who's disabled, seriously disabled, autism or something, right? They can't get the child care. You know, if it's a single mom, well, you know, two-parent families, somebody's staying home from work if you get a call from school, right? Kid's throwing up on everybody, or the kid punched the kid next to him at lunch. Well, somebody's staying home. Well, so, and again, I'm going to stay away from a lot of this stuff, but really one of the main problems is lack of integration of a psychological understanding of what I'm going to call readiness to change, just the concept, the mindset, planning, intervention, staff training. There's some staff training, but anyway. So that's just some 3 general points, you know, slightly disorganized, I guess, but so I'm going to talk a little bit about what FMU's done so far. I'm going to talk a lot about my agency called the Florence Family Support Center. Before I do that, what do you notice I have not, I'll probably not even get a third through this thing. What have you noticed I've not put up here for the enemies? Anybody notice something? 2 things I haven't put up here. What is home? Go ahead.
I said drugs.
Addiction. Good. What's the other one? What is homelessness usually blamed on? You see an article in the paper, there's always mental illness. I have not put it up here because that's not one of the main enemies. Most people with mental illness and most people with addiction are not homeless. In addition to that, you know, when state-of-the-art methods are used, most mental health or addiction can be treated more or less, right? I mean, not perfect. It's not helpful to blame it on those 2 things and to only look at those 2 things. It does not cause, it contributes, right? I'm not stupid or naive. It contributes. So the only thing about mental illness in Florence that's a real problem that would cause continual homelessness is people with paranoid disorders. That can be paranoid schizophrenia. There's light versions, L-I-T-E, light versions of it called paranoid personality disorder, things like that. So to me, those are the people almost impossible to reach. But again, there are some ways, but it's harder. That's all really, if all the mental health agencies were functioning the way they should, if they had the training the way I'm advising it, it would not be so overwhelming. if that makes any sense. So, all right, before I talk about what we've done so far, I just want to tell you just a quick story. How are we doing on time? Okay. So it takes a certain amount of pugnaciousness to do this kind of stuff, right? I mean, to me, this decision, we all make decisions about how we're going to approach problems and what we decide to put our energy towards. So kind of the way I am with people, I want to just mention my mother a little bit. So, some of you probably think, well, his father must have been, a little tough to deal with. So my mother, it's like 1989. I think it was the NYNEX strike. They were going to cut the medical benefits for the staff. My mother was a telephone operator most of her life, right? Old school operator. Do they even have operators anymore? I don't know. But if you hit 0 on your phones, what happens? So my mother's on a strike line. Not a phrase you hear often down here, right? In terms of the attitudes towards unions. My mother's on a strike line, and for some reason I'm with her. I was there. And her and her friends, they're talking like, they're on the strike line, talking about, blueberry recipes, and how many blueberries you put in there, and, what kind of milk, and how long, all this stuff. So some guy drives by, yells out the window, "You're lucky to have a job." So my mother and all of her blueberry muffin making friends turn to this guy, and the whole street resounds with, "Bleep you bleep it." My mother and all her bleep, screaming at this guy. So he's gone. I'm standing there like, and she turns back and they're like, "Well, so how many blueberries did you say you put in those muffins?" Okay, that's how I grew up. That's how I grew up. So anyway, I just thought I'd appreciate a little background if you wonder sometimes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Florence Family Support Center. I'll probably go faster than I intended. You're going to get a text of this talk afterwards, I guess, or did they already get it? Where's Sean? Sean, have you seen the movie Get Him to the Greek? Okay, Sean is the guy, because he was my liaison for this. He was the guy trying to get the rock star. Sean, really, thank you and forgive me, all right, for how difficult this has been, trying to get me from London to Los Angeles. So we're going to talk a little bit about Florence Family Support Center. If you could do the slide, buddy. I don't know how many other people do this. Now, this is an idea that both Cecilia Meggs and I think had been percolating separately a little bit at some points, thinking about what does Florence really need? So there's a long story about the Mayor's Coalition project, and they said at one point, well, we got to do something. We're like, okay, let's do this. Let's try this. So if you go to the next one, please. I don't know who else really does this. Other agencies do case management, but this is really open to the entire population of Florence. So it's a collaboration of the Mayor's Coalition Group, the Lighthouse Ministries, and FMU. So we wanted to have like a single referral agency to try to hook people up to services that they could use. So I have a long intro here I'll just refer to briefly. I kind of decided in my career not to go after like basic societal causes of things. So I'm not doing a lot of working with the government or public health people about how to end poverty. It's just not me. As Henry Beatty said, Pastor Beatty, he's one of these guys just pops up, helps in the community, people don't even know him. He says he likes being a battlefield commander, and I'm kind of like that. I just like that direct in the trenches stuff. So we're not really trying to cure poverty, but what we're trying to do is just keep the funnel going so that people are getting out of it. Does that make sense? So how do we do this? We thought we have to have a case management model for anybody, that any agency can refer them to us, to this agency. Could you go to the next one, please? And we will shepherd or navigate, you'll hear different terms for this kind of thing, people to get the kind of services they need. So, these are the technical terms we've used in what our mission is and all this. But, and again, I really won't berate you with this, but the gaps in services, the bureaucracy, all that stuff, we're trying to address that by this kind of thing. So what we do is we get people, might get a referral, we get a lot of referrals from Lighthouse Ministries, was getting them from Hope Health for a while. We get them at the First Friday event, Homeless Services Connect event. And we do a little evaluation. It's not therapy. I don't do therapy anymore, right? This is psychology-informed social work. And we do an evaluation. What do you need? We try to find the causes. Try to look at the causes. Again, a little bit of a psychology approach. Why did you end up here? How did you end up here? See what they need. Could be financial, housing, rent. There are places like Lighthouse Ministries, some others who will give people money with, of course, certain criteria to pay a past due bill. Do you know that there are such things? There are such things. So there was the SC Stay Plus program, which I guess they ran out of money. Is that right? That link doesn't work anymore? Or it's, yeah. So there was a lot of help during the COVID period, because they would call it COVID funds. So we do comprehensive case management. So we don't just push numbers, business cards at people. We actually meet with them like clients, except we don't do therapy. We can't do therapy. We don't want to do therapy. We let other people do the therapy. And it's just ongoing and long-term case management. So we have a client base. Next one, please. Does that make sense? I don't know if any of you can have any understanding of this kind of thing. You're used to a case manager in a medical facility. When you're going out, they'll say, here's some things. Good luck, and you're gone. But we do ongoing, regular case management. We take clients on. We have a caseload. Next one, please. I tell you, we only take difficult cases. We only want the worst cases, the most nightmarish people, the most nightmarish combination of circumstances possible. So I've turned down people. No, that's easy. Just go call the housing people. They can probably help you. Oh, this one, everyone's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, that's our kind of client. What? Yep. So, of course, we get people with a mix. I mean, I'll try to describe typical situations. But what we do see is all the mistakes and bureaucratic ridiculousness of every health and social service agency in Florence. I'm sorry, but that's true. That every way that people foul up, either with bureaucracy, red tape, poor communication, limited criteria for who they'll take and don't take. I decided not to go into any detail about this today, but that's who I get. They're just like a pinball. Boom, boom, boom. Here, no, can't be here, no. No, I was at my shelter 30 days, was up, okay, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Whatever. And then, right to us. Now, we've been in operation since 2018. Next one, please. FFSC is staffed entirely by FMU students from day one. Now, we've been able to do that through real grants, through volunteers. The city gives us some money to pay students also. We get Psych 498 students, internship students. All my staff, I train them to be case managers with very difficult people, mental illness, addiction, just growing up in desperate situations and all that. We do other things also. So, I mean, you can really be proud of about 85% of our students. They really step up to the plate, deal with very difficult situations and people. I mean, I've got Frances, Frances Singletary? Yeah, Frances is in there dealing with some client. She's like telling me to back off a couple times. I'm like, Frances, unbelievable. Maturity, professionalism, generally learning what I want them to do in terms of some of these specialized models, how to engage people that are hard to engage. That's the psychology. Frances is in there. Julia Holmes, grad student. Andrew Quattro. These are some of my more recent students. Really, I mean, about 15% of the students I get who volunteer, I'm like, I don't know how they get through the day. You know what I mean? I'm like, thank you for trying to help, but really, I just don't know how they get through the day. But about 85% of them, you'd be so proud to see them, what they do with us. All right, next one, please. We're going backward, I think, or I put in a double slide. Anyway, I'm going to be brief about this because I'm sure the time is flying by. At least for me, it might not be for you. I'll give you a little hint about the secret weapon, which is you have a barriers mindset. What are the barriers? So everything I've talked about, you can start to see, we're going to think about, for this client, what are the barriers? And they can be external, and I've already talked about a lot of that, or they can be personal. We do get a lot of clients with personal barriers. And I'll talk about that. The motivational interviewing is something I've done entire day-long workshops on, so I won't do that. But there's a way to engage people when you address issues of why they're not trusting you. It's a lot about reflective listening, and you can help them actually bump them up the stages of change, which I touch on a little bit today. But it's a whole thing that I would really love. My dream to have every agency in Florence trained in motivational interviewing, but that day is not here yet. The other thing, it's not in the text. What I deal with all the time, I mean, you can do all the multicultural training you want. You come down to our little shop, and you're going to have to deal with it. So I have to think constantly, because we deal with mostly African-American population, often poor, and I walk in with my white power image, right? I've got to be really careful and think about things, how I'm presenting myself, what I dress like, all these kinds of things. So it's a very, it's a good way to put into practice those things a lot of our students are trained in, to really see someone walk in your office and kind of look at you a certain way, and you're like, oh, that was chapter 14, page 69, wasn't it? You know. All right, let's go a little bit further. So the stages of change mindset is important. The barriers thing, I've already talked about some of the external barriers. There are more than that. Let's go to the next one, please, bud. Now, what we do deal with, you know, it's not like in the movies where, you know, some poor people are angels, and if you just offer them help, they're going to end up living in your house. What was that movie, The Blind Side? So, yeah, you know, we deal with a lot of very difficult people, and they have bad decision-making, self-sabotaging, which is understandable when you try to look at people's history in terms of where they grew up in. I mean, we deal with a lot of people, they grow up in neighborhoods and families of despair. I will technically define despair for you, but I mean, to me, that's almost the best way to put it. Despair and hopelessness. When you grow up like that, you know, you're not the most motivated person. I can talk about, if you're going to tell me, well, I picked myself up by my bootstraps out of that, which I hear all the time, I'll tell you why. Most likely you're white, A, when you tell me that. I've never had a black person tell me that. So what we see is people have been kind of beaten down by society in life. They've kind of given up. And there are two terms. They're called self-efficacy, these technical things. But it's basically how much confidence you have that you could do what's necessary to get out of your situation, 1 to 10. 1 to 10, how much do you believe it would actually work? Does that make sense? Yeah, it's technical terms, Bandura, all that stuff. But we actually put it into clinical practice with our clients. And my case managers ask our clients, 1 to 10, how much do you think you can actually get housing if you pursue all this? How much do you think you could do what's necessary? I don't know if I'll get, some of the slides have that, I'll try to keep them short. So we do get people who are ambivalent about the need they got to change the way they're living their life. Now that doesn't always have to be addiction, but it often is. It doesn't have to be about mental illness, but it is. Sometimes it's just about how bad you are at making decisions, how bad you are with people, all right? So you may not even think you have a problem. It's everybody else's fault. We deal with that. They're not all angels that we deal with. All right, and so the thing that we try to bring here is that psychological, what do psychologists do? What are the reasons this person is like this? There are understandable reasons. You don't have to like the reasons. You don't have to put up with the reasons, if you know what I mean sometime, but they're not symptoms of mental illness. So I'm going to talk just briefly about the stages of change model, I think, in the next slide. Yeah, let's do that next. Anyway, so what are some of the reasons that someone would not have a lot of confidence in being able to get out of their situation? I should just go have a few beers and just forget about it. What good would it do? I mean, people, I'll show you a little bit of data. They get really frustrated with bureaucracy. And how about having to go and talk to strangers all day long at all these agencies, Social Security, employment, wherever else you got to go, and telling them about what a mess your life is? That's not easy. I'm not sure I could do it. Call it pride or whatever you want. And then I talked about the despair thing. I can't even imagine what it's like. They have no role models. And a lot of stuff I didn't put on this list. They have no role models for being successful. All right. Now, people can be ambivalent about change for lots of reasons. They may not be aware of the need to change. And there's lots of reasons for that. I'm not going to have a lot of time to go into this. There's reasons you wouldn't want to admit the problem to yourself. And there's reasons you wouldn't want to admit a problem to others. So it's a psychological view of why someone is stuck. You're following me? All right, let's go. Growing up, the way you grew up, you underestimate how much things are normal to you until you get married. Right? And then your spouse tells you all the things that are not normal, that you thought, well, my dad did that, my mom did, you don't even think about it. I don't know if I have time to give you one of my examples. I think we're out of time. Yeah, all right, I'll tell you. So, I'm in college, typical 19-year-old goofball. I actually had a girlfriend of some sort, how I don't know. So I gave her like a Valentine's card or a birthday card. So I left it for her something. So she came back to me, and she gave me the look. And of course, I did the usual automatic mail, what thing, right? What? I don't know what. And she just opens the cards and shows it to me. I'm like, what? Because I had put, happy birthday, happy birthday, there. Ron. Because in my family, the L word didn't get thrown around a lot or written on things. So that can really apply to a lot of stuff in terms of what you think is too much drinking, what you think living in a terrible, roach-ridden trailer is. You follow me? Like a lot of stuff. So like, well, did you call Social Security today? No, I'll call them tomorrow. I mean, that's for whole different reasons in some ways too. But it's just like, well, this is normal. I feel like I'm doing pretty good. No, you're not doing pretty good. I mean, I don't say that stuff most of the time. All right. So lots of reasons why people don't want to admit problems to themselves, what seems normal. All that. So I don't have time. I just want to give you a taste of what we can do if we bring psychology into this world of homelessness and poverty, and understand it from there. So go back one buddy. Yep, good. Just a quick one. There's lots of reasons why people don't want to admit a problem to themselves. All right? Another one here. Why does your grandfather not take his heart medication? Not a rhetorical question. Why does what, am I back in class? So weakness, Crystal? Why does he not think he has a heart problem? You're almost there. Okay. He doesn't want to have a heart problem because heart problems are scary. Scary. So fear motivates a lot of reasons we don't admit problems to ourselves. Again, none of this is like mental illness stuff. All of us have problems that we don't think we have. And if there's a workshop, I would do a little exercise where we would find them out in 5 minutes. So if you want, call your spouse right now, or if your spouse is here, say to them, do you think I've got some problems I don't acknowledge? Easiest workshop exercise I ever do. Next. So we actually have done some research funded by FMU. I think it was real grant stuff. But we went in to the Services Connect event, of course with all appropriate consent and all that stuff. We asked questions along the lines of all the things that I'm talking to you about. Does that make sense? I'm going to try to give you the boiled down version. We ask about like how much they believe they have certain problems, how much they think, 1 to 10, how much you think you can get out of this situation, which is the efficacy, that's a technical term. Fears and stigma related to seeking help. All right, next one, please. So we actually had what I call the bureaucratic fatigue scale. I don't think I got this anywhere. I may have. I don't remember now. But look at the questions. I trust local service providers. I blame local service providers in my current situation. I get upset when I have to go to a service provider. I get upset when I have to go to a service provider. And I'm happy. So next one. So this is the 1 to 10 confidence that you could do what people are asking you to do to get out of your situation. Again, requires self-disclosure, bureaucratic problem solving, lots of other stuff. 1 to 10, how much do you think if you actually did all this stuff everyone's asking you to fill out those, these agencies, you got to do online or on phone, like multiple hour intakes. 1 to 10, and then we've got, these are just, whoa, all right, we good? So these are things that, to me, are barriers, more personal, but there are external barriers here, too. Do you see which ones are the external barriers? Travel time to work site, can't afford transportation, child care. But this is a mix, but these are a bunch of barrier type things. Next one, please. We actually asked them if they have a mental health diagnosis, how much they think they do. Same thing for addiction. Next one, please. How much? One more, I think. Maybe I didn't do that right. 1 to 7, how much do you want to be in a stable living situation? For homeless, so we get a lot of people at risk for homeless. Most of our people are at risk for homeless, I would say. So, all that. So let's keep going. So we got some preliminary findings. I think I made some sort of cutoff on the Likert scales. I mean, some externalizing, my problems are caused by other people. We deal with that, right? We don't just dump people as soon as they give us that kind of stuff, but it's not easy to deal with. Problem awareness, fears of rejection, almost half. It's a small sample, it's only 21. It's not like this was but preliminary data. Don't want to feel like I fail. So I've got a client, we just spoke to one yesterday. Like the highest level risk of her going back to a previous lifestyle is feeling like things are working out. Can you understand that? I'm going to have you think about that tonight. Why someone would be afraid of success. It's not fear of failure, it's fear of success. Dealt with that a lot with working with veterans, actually. Unbelievable. Especially if they've been through a lot of failures. It's like just now, as long as I'm just failing in general, I don't have to actually fail any further. You're going to put me up here, it's further to fall. Anyway, transportation, a big issue, feeling like, and this is a little bit, again, a lot of this with veterans too. Oh, I'll take care of that. I'm not asking for help. Next. Anyway, I mean, almost all of them wanted a stable situation, but a third of them, was it a third, didn't believe they could actually get it, even with help available. All right, and a quarter for that. About a third asked, they've given up on trying to get help, because they've tried. Okay, next one, please. Anyway, this I don't have time really to get into, but I think this is in the text of the thing, but I'll go to the next model here. But this is how I think. Next one, please, bud. Nope. Yeah, so basically, it's that no one is not ready for change. It's that they're at certain levels, and you've got to approach them only in certain ways that will actually bump them up. If you start treating them for alcoholism, treatment is an action stage, and a lot of people come in pre-contemplation, contemplation. So I really don't have time for this today. I'm going to touch on some other things. But this is a model this is my mindset, so I train people, so we don't just throw people away when they're not doing what we want them to do. So you hear the word compliant. What's the definition of compliant? Someone's doing what someone else wants them to do. That's not a way to deal with people. Find out where they are. And then there are certain things, you might have to wait a while, that will help. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, I'm not going to go into this. Getting close to time. I ban my students from using certain phrases because it shows that old mindset. It's victim blaming. Oh, believe me, I'm not naive. There's a lot of pretty self-destructive, absolutely abrasive people around that we deal with. It's not helpful, but let's keep going. So a little of this is in there. So I think this is what makes us different kinds of things. We try to be creative. I might have a minute to talk about that. We use the psychology, all the same stuff I've been talking about. But I train the case managers, and we have discussions. Why is this person not making the phone calls they're supposed to make? Right? Other stuff like that. Let's keep going. Engagement is a big issue. Forming a therapeutic alliance. Just listen. Don't try to fix things right away. Just listen. So now the other thing is we do advocacy and occasionally activism. Now activism, when I call somebody way high up in the chain and saying, what the heck are you guys doing? You would not believe the nightmare your agency has caused. I try to do that as least as possible. And what we do is we do have specific identified liaisons with agencies, some of which because they know how I will be, but they give me a liaison. I can call Diane Davis at Hope Health. I can call Kathy Timmons at PD Mental Health, as I often do. Diane, this guy got dropped from the appointments, or what happened? And a couple other places also. So, I mean, this is kind of my dream. This almost should be the last slide. What we're doing, the students, the FMU resources, my ability to have done this and still doing it, the involvement with the city, I would like to see this as a transportable model for using universities, especially in poverty-stricken areas. Anyway, time. How much time do I actually have left? So you said telling me 0, is that right? I'm going to do one more thing. Now, all this other stuff is also stuff that FMU does because I'm involved with it or other people are involved with it. First Friday is involved with it. First Friday Services Connect, I forgot to take that out of the slide. It's a tremendous event. Florence Area Resources Guide. What we work on with Lighthouse and with Legal Services is to have a guide to services, a comprehensive, updated, accurate guide that if you're poor or homeless, then you look at this guide, you will know all the basic services, all the services that you would possibly need. So that's something that we work on. I mean, that's an FMU thing. My students do that. Homeless court is something. There's now a homeless court in Florence, like drug court for homeless. We're involved in that. FFSC is one of the agencies that will case manage clients so they meet the criteria so that things will be dropped. We have a process, psychiatry in Florence. What a mess. What a mess. There's only a few psychiatrists in Florence. Like literally a few. And so I talked to a psychiatrist, we're going to talk to we've talked to one nurse practitioner, there's another one I got to call. We're going to try to get a small group that's willing to see a patient in 48 hours. That will never happen. That's not happening in Florence. Any agency can tell them and have them call me at home. There's no way that happens. All right, and I'm involved in the Mayor's Youth Initiative. Somehow got conned by the mayor into being the co-chair. The mayor is good. I like the mayor. And you know the mayor? You know the mayor. The mayor's good. She knows what she's doing. She's doing some great things in Florence, and it's great to work for her. I was hesitant about that, but yeah, she's really good. So she's aware of a lot of these things and has sort of similar thoughts about that. Okay, let's keep going. I just want to give some credit to some people who are actually here. So we actually, for examples of things we could do, we talked to Wendy Caldwell, and I had a Spanish major who was an FFSC case manager, and a Latina FMU student made Spanish versions of all our forms. I also talked with Wendy about, and another guy, I can't remember his name, I think he's adjunct though, that we're going to start to do outreach to Hispanic populations who, terrified about migration, so immigration. And Crystal and Chris Bullock share my passion for dealing with low-income populations. Anna Caroline's going to start working with us. Lighthouse is like over the moon about the fact she's going to work with them with their women's group, one of their women's groups. I know Matt, is Matt here? Where's Matt? Did he come? All right, I think he got involved somehow in this thing that I made him aware of, the homeless youth grant, yeah. FMU accounting is incredibly helpful, so they help us. And then let's keep going. I don't know, 2 things, medical programs, we could really use them in the trenches more. Community consulting team from each FMU department. I've got some, I think, more specific examples in the text here. But like we have sent our clients to the people in business who do taxes, but one of our initiatives is, this relates to the creative stuff, we're trying to get people on disability to work, they can work a few hours, they can work a fair amount of hours, like 20 hours. So because our main goal with FFSC really is everybody we get, we try to back them away from the cliff of financial and housing disaster permanently. So that's always the long-term goal with our clients. And I have some specifics in the text that I think you can see about one of the ways we're trying to get people with disability to work extra hours is to help them with businesses like Etsy, right? So side hustle stuff. In the public health field, they call it micro businesses for families, for single women with families. So there's a lot of stuff where we're exploring and learning. We're going to start training we got one client, we're going to start helping her get an Etsy business. Okay, let's keep going. Anyway, not the end, because you apparently cannot get rid of me. I did ask to continue to be involved because I like showing the FMU flag, that we're doing a lot of direct service stuff. I mean, FMU does a lot of great stuff for the community. I hope that no one in particular, but no one else hears that I'm saying that, FMU doesn't do a lot of great things. But there's a sector where I think we could have a major impact in. That it would really just more being in the trenches and just helping people. I think we make a dramatic impact and really raise a significant number of people out of poverty. I really think so. And we're already doing it. We're getting more people involved. I can do more about getting some of the departments. I don't care what department you are. I mean, Sean doesn't know this, but the first time I get some family whose kid's struggling with English in school, he's going to get a call from me. Well, I'm probably already blocked on his phone because of all to get him to the Greek thing. But yeah, archaeology, whatever, I can find something for you to do, direct service. Okay, but mostly thinking about business, psychology, like I already mentioned them in the clinic, and we're going to talk more about dealing with low-income populations. So there's a lot we can do. It's just a tremendous opportunity, I think, for a great impact at that level that I would like to see, and will continue to be around to try to keep that moving. So I think that's why it's not the end, because this is supposed to be like a valedictory, like goodbye, I realized later on, not just some open forum for any topic I wanted to talk about. So, but I'll still be around. That's it. Okay.
Ron,
Yeah.
really appreciate the talk, and I think you opened a few eyes. Don't go away just yet, and I'll ask Sharon O'Kelly, the chair of the faculty, to come, and she's just got something for you.
Dr. Murphy, on behalf of the administration, the faculty, and the staff of Francis Marion University, I'd like to present you with a token of our appreciation for your words of wisdom this afternoon and for your service to the university and to the community.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Nice. Thank you very much. Very touching. Really appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for a reception. Thank you.